India today presented a compelling case against Pakistan in the International Court of Justice. Pakistan tried to put together a defense, but the defense was riddled with loopholes and full of lies. For example, the Pakistani advocate at The Hague said that Pakistan has been willing to offer consular access to India, while the fact is, and this is a fact on record, that not once, not twice, but 16 times India has sought consular access from Pakistan. Consular access has been denied, and now suddenly in front of the highest international court, Pakistan turns around and says we're willing to offer consular access to India. Here's the full story of the face-off between India and Pakistan at The Hague. Gaurav Sawant reports from Joe.
I'm Commander Kulbhushan Jadhav.
An innocent Indian's life on the line. India going all out to save Kulbhushan Jadhav.
I express, on behalf of my country, gratitude for having fixed this hearing at such a short notice.
Putting Pakistan in the dock in the world's top court.
Mr. Jadhav, who incarcerated in Pakistan for more than a year on concocted charges, deprived of his rights and protection accorded under the Vienna Convention.
Just a week after India filed the petition, the International Court of Justice took up the Kulbhushan Jadhav case on Monday. India presented its arguments first, beginning with the gross violations of Jadhav's fundamental rights.
Despite requests by India, Pakistan has not provided any information or documents, including the charge sheet, proceedings of the Court of Inquiry, the summary of evidence, the judgment. Request for appointment of a defense lawyer for Mr. Jadhav has also not elicited any response.
India's case was based on the denial of consular access to Jadhav, a right every Indian enjoys in Pakistan.
Pakistan failed to comply with all its obligations under Article 36.
Rising from allegations.
Then eminent lawyer Harish Salve took the dais and demolished Pakistan's argument, contesting the UN court's jurisdiction.
India has thus provided, I submit, sufficient basis for this court to come to the conclusion, definitely prima facie, that it has jurisdiction. India bases its assertion of existence of jurisdiction on Article 1 of the optional protocol concerning the compulsory settlement of disputes 1963, which accompanies the Vienna Convention. I shall refer to it, sir, as the optional protocol.
India has sought a provisional measure from the court in the form of a stay on Jadhav's hanging until the final verdict.
India has a strong case for provisional measures as an indication that the death sentence be not executed until such time as the court has adjudicated India's applications.
Outside the courtroom, India today caught up with India's counsel on his de-stressing regime.
Pakistan is in violation of the Vienna Convention. You proved that in a court of law. You proved from past instances. Now, the judiciary goes by past instances, sir?
Yeah, precedents.
They'll go by precedents. And we have a strong case.
I hope so.
Back home, the Indian government is hopeful of justice for Jadhav.
हमें विश्वास है कि ये न्याय मिलेगा कुलभूषण जाधव को, वो निर्दोष है और हमें उसे बचाना सरकार की भूमिका स्पष्ट है। भारत देश के नागरिक हैं और उन पर ऐसा अन्याय होने नहीं देंगे।
It is obvious that Pakistan planned to kill Jadhav. The Sharif administration exempted issue of national security from the ICJ's jurisdiction just a fortnight before Jadhav's sentencing, exposing that the whole trial was choreographed. All eyes are now on the International Court of Justice to foil Pakistan's murder plot and save an innocent life. With Gaurav Sawant in The Hague, Bureau Report, India Today.
Mr. Salve, we want to start by asking you about your sense of how the day's proceedings at the Hague went. How satisfied are you with day one of the Kulbhushan Jadhav case, sir?
No, it was that from a lawyer's point of view, we had our day in court. That's what happened. That makes me happy. We said all that we had to.
Do you think it was a big snub to Pakistan when the ICJ judges said that Pakistan will not be allowed to show the video, the supposed confession statement of Kulbhushan Jadhav?
I don't use adjectives like snub. It was a procedural point. We raised the procedural point saying the merits of this case are not on trial, and the judges felt it was not appropriate to see it. So I think that was the end of the matter. But the exact reason you will know when we see the order.
How soon, Mr. Salve, do you think the order will come? Because they said it will take some days. Do you have any sense of how long this may be?
I don't think it normally takes more than fortnight or so.
Fortnight, you think? I must tell you that everybody who was watching your own performance in court, you were live across all TV channels, very impressed. We clearly put our best foot forward at the Hague today.
Thank you so much. That's very kind of you.
Mr. Salve, Pakistan asked a few questions about the passport, the two passports of Kulbhushan Jadhav. What did you make of the approach of the Pakistani advocate and agent?
Well, we covered it in our opening, saying merits of the trial are not important. As a principle of law, we also said that the more serious the charge, the greater the procedural safeguards. So when we got stuck up live with guns and a gun shooting people, we gave a full and fair trial right to play at the Supreme Court. So the two issues are completely unrelated. I mean, India doesn't accept all these allegations. They make these allegations, but then this is not the forum to do all this.
So one of the things I didn't understand was when Pakistan said we've been offering consular access and it's a bilateral matter and that there is no problem with consular access. We asked for consular access 16 times. We've been denied each time, Mr. Salve.
You heard it, I heard it.
And also, Mr. Salve, about Pakistan's approach, they're saying annulment is beyond the jurisdiction of the ICJ. They're also saying that they believe that even a stay can't be given because the ultimate grievance redressing that jurisdiction is not something that the ICJ can deal with.
And there's a legal submission. We presented our point of view, they presented their point of view.
Okay, but the one question that every client asks the advocate at the end of the day, do you think we're winning, Mr. Salve?
And whenever a client asks me that question, my answer is there are powers beyond our comprehension who decide on the destinies of men. So leave it to the judges and leave it to the biggest judge of them all.
Fantastic. And do you think, as India's advocate in this big case, that Kulbhushan Jadhav will ever be back home soon, safe?
Again, as I said, there is somebody who is more powerful than all of us who writes all our destinies. If he wills it, it shall happen.
Okay, let's see how things go. Thank you very much, Mr. Salve. Appreciate you joining us. Thank you, sir.
Leave it to the biggest judge of them all, rather philosophical Harish Salve there speaking to India today. I want to go across now to Ashtar Ausaf, the Attorney General of Pakistan, and show you what he had to say, because we had some very tough questions to him about Pakistan's approach, the fact that they don't want to now accept the jurisdiction of the International Court of Justice, about why basic access to a defense lawyer hasn't been granted to Kulbhushan Jadhav, and about why his family is not being given a visa to go to Pakistan. Here's Pakistan's top lawyer on the firing line. Mr. Ausaf, welcome to India today. I want to begin by understanding from you the approach of the Pakistani advocate at the ICJ. You're saying that Pakistan has offered consular access to India. India, sir, has come on record saying we've asked for unconditional consular access 16 times. 16 times that consular access has been denied. And yet the Pakistani advocate goes at the highest court of the world and says that India has been given consular access. That's not even factually correct, sir. Hello?
He's factually correct. He's factually correct, and no misstatement has been made. In fact, I'm sorry to say that India has been misleading the world and also the court. I don't understand as to why India, if it was so keen to have consular access, waited for full 1 year to go to the court and then make these statements. When Pakistan, it was Pakistan itself which had approached the Indians and pointed out that here was a person and gave a copy of the passport And the first thing that the Indian embassy said that they had absolutely no idea who this person was. And then when Pakistan brought the matter before the EU ambassadors and had a press conference in Islamabad, that they woke up from this slumber and then got up and said, we need to have this consular access. And we asked then as to the antecedents of this gentleman. And we found that he was a serving naval officer. And how would you like to have a serving armed forces officer in your country asking for the embassy asking for...
So first and foremost, he's a former commander of the Indian Navy. He retired. The date of retirement, we've got his friends with us, is a publicly known fact. He retired many years ago. It's not as if he's retired recently. And basic human rights, like giving Kulbhushan Jadhav a defense lawyer, like allowing his parents to come and visit him in Pakistan, their visa application still pending. How can anybody in India believe that justice will be done? Pakistan so far has run this matter like a kangaroo court.
Do you know that the allegation was that he was kidnapped from Iran? When was he kidnapped from Iran? Who kidnapped him? Where is the incident report? All those things have been said. It's very unfortunate that such a stance was taken. As to his retirement, do you know how old he is? Do you know how old this gentleman is?
47, yes. Why? What's the point I'm trying to make?
47. And how many years ago did he retire?
So, in the Indian armed forces, you can retire after 20 years. What's the point that you're trying to make? His retirement from service is a publicly known fact.
I'm just stating the facts. I'm stating the facts and not making a point. And if somebody's telling me that he retired as a commander, and commander is a very senior officer 20 years ago, then how old was he? He was 27 when he became a commander? Well, I think the Indian team ought to have put their facts right before the court.
They did put their facts right. So he retired just a few years ago. You're saying that they sought consular access now. In fact, they've been seeking... A few years ago, I said, sir, and they've been seeking consular access to Kulbhushan Jadhav from the time it was publicly announced that Kulbhushan Jadhav had been picked up by Pakistan. He was in Iran as a businessman. He was brought in. You've seen what the German ambassador had to say. The German ambassador to Pakistan said he was picked up from close to the Iran-Pakistan border, kidnapped by possibly the Taliban over there or the militia that operates in that region, and then sold to the ISI. And that's how Kulbhushan Jadhav, Indian businessman, ended up in Pakistani custody.
Why would such a thing would happen? Why would somebody be picked up from, and what was he doing if he was doing within the borders of Pakistan? This is an incredible story. And the German ambassador, we don't know anything about what he said, and this may well be a fabricated story. We should not be going by stories. We should be going by facts. And the facts are very evident. They've been brought before the court. The court will be looking at the matter in its totality, and I think we should save our breath for the court. Now that the court is there, we should not have any media trial.
No, because this is a clear violation of the Vienna Convention. The fact that
It is not a violation of the Vienna Convention.
So, Pakistan is supposed to provide consular access to Kulbhushan Jadhav. Any national of another country picked up is supposed to be given consular access. India has applied for consular access 16 times. 16 times that very basic request has been denied. Why was he denied a defense counsel? Isn't that what justice is? Shouldn't he be allowed to pick a defense counsel of his choice?
He has had defense counsel of his choice.
How do we know that?
Access to lawyers.
How do we know that? We don't know that, Mr. Ausaf. We don't know. If the Indian government were involved, if we'd picked a defense counsel like we picked Harish Salve, we know that we've put our best. We don't know how long the proceedings went on for. 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 5 hours, 5 days, 5 weeks. Who knows? And who knows whether he even had a defense counsel? You're saying he had a counsel of his choice. I find that very hard to believe, Mr. Ausaf.
Don't believe what you don't want to believe. It is not the question of your belief or my belief. It is what the court will believe, And the court will have a say from your side and a say from our side. Now that the matter is in court, I think you should save your breath and I'll save my breath and wait for the court verdict.
Initially, Pakistan seemed to suggest that it will not go to the International Court of Justice, that what India was doing was inappropriate and that they would not respond. Now we're seeing Pakistan say, yes, we will come to the International Court of Justice, we'll present our case, we want these hearings to take place. What seems to have changed in the interim, sir?
Nothing has changed. We are consistent. It is India which said a few years ago, in 1999, that ICJ did not have any jurisdiction. It is India which has changed its stance. India's arguments are on fire. India said when it is a matter between two Commonwealth countries, the ICJ will not have any jurisdiction. It is the Indian stance.
But you've left India with no option, Mr. Ausaf, given the fact that basic human rights are not parameters, are not being kept in mind, that his family is not being allowed to meet him. Why should Kulbhushan Jadhav's family not be given a visa to come to Pakistan? Is that not a very basic requirement? Why should they not be allowed, sir? What are you scared of?
Tell me. When was a visa application made?
They've made a visa application several weeks ago. They made one after the death sentence was announced.
Hey, wait a minute. You tell me this man was arrested a year ago.
Yes.
And the family wants to see the person only a few weeks back?
I'm sorry, the family tried to go to Pakistan even earlier, and they're trying to go to Pakistan now. You don't have any defense. You don't have any defense for why a visa is not being granted, and you're questioning the motives of the family that is already in grief with the fact that that their relative Kulbhushan Jadhav has been wrongly arrested by Pakistan.
The lady has already made an application. That application is being entertained. It's been looked into, and due process will be there. I can assure you this much.
No,
and also,
why hasn't the visa been granted so far, sir? It's been many days.
I'm not the Foreign Office. And I can find out for you, since you put this question, I will, you can call me and I'll give you a reason why a visa has not been granted or is being granted. But the question is not that. The question is, what was India doing for full 1 year?
Inconsistency after inconsistency, lie after lie. What was India doing for 1 year, he asks? To answer that question, Pinky Anand, Additional Solicitor General of the Government of India, joining us on this broadcast. Fawad Hussain Chowdhury is a senior advocate in the Supreme Court of Pakistan, both live with us at this time. Pinky Anand, the Attorney General of Pakistan, saying what was India doing for 1 year? It's almost as if they're living in a delusional make-believe world where India has not been doing anything. We've been sitting idle 16 times. The General says this on India Today. The attorney in The Hague says exactly the same thing. It almost seems as if they're living in a make-believe parallel world, Pinky Anand.
Rahul, I think you're absolutely right. I mean, it's a preposterous situation. Instead of answering the question as to why they didn't give the consular access, which is mandatory under the optional protocol, they are questioning what India did or didn't do. What is the response to the fact that they violated the optional protocol, which invalidates their entire process and the trial? The trial is a sham trial because A, not only does anybody not know about it, it is proceeded on the basis of lack of consular access, which is mandatory under the optional protocol. Not only that, the family has been denied the visas or not been granted the visas, therefore no access, nobody knows what is going on with Jadhav. Defense counsel appointed, not appointed, there is a complete closure as far as Pakistan is concerned, and it is as if they are doing something which they don't want the world to know. I mean, that by itself, I think, vindicates the stand of India altogether, that if there is such a trial which violates every norm of international and national laws, then the same is bad and it's a sham one which should be set aside immediately.
You know Harish Salve well. When I asked him how the day went, he was very philosophical, said let the great powers that decide our fate decide what happens next. But just looking at it purely from a professional perspective, these are international judges, amongst the best in the world, very reputed judges, bipartisan. We've presented the case from India's perspective. We, of course, think Pakistan's case is riddled with loopholes. How confident are you that Harish Salve and the government of India have been able to convince an international jury about the merits of India's case?
I think, Rahul, the evidence is on the fact that the ICJ president has addressed a letter to the Pakistan government to say that in view of the provisional measures that could be taken, an order could be passed, Pakistan should act in such a way that it should not defeat that specific direction which may follow. I think that vindicates again another stance of the government that we have been able to demonstrate. And not only that, if you see what has gone on with the trial, Pakistan has had no defense whatsoever. All that Pakistan tries to do is to say that identity is disputed, the fact that there is mercy petition, that the trial may happen, the fact that they have any kind of defenses. Yes, a defense lawyer was appointed, some tape which the ICJ refused to allow them to play. Of course, I must be cautious and say this, that ultimately it does depend upon the ICJ, but on the face of it, what is there and what the government has been able to demonstrate, and with the speed, I think the very interesting part has been the way the government of India has acted with immediate speed to ensure that the sentence is not executed and provisional measures are taken with the ICJ. These kind of
but what about the procedural aspects that Pakistan kept highlighting? They're saying India's ultimate appeal is for annulment, which is cancellation of the death sentence. They're saying that that is not possible because ICJ's jurisdiction will not allow it to decide on whether or not Pakistan can give a death sentence to Kulbhushan Jadhav. They're saying if the ultimate appeal is beyond the jurisdiction of the ICJ, then the Pakistani advocate at The Hague said the immediate appeal, which is that the death sentence be put on a stay, cannot be entertained because the ultimate appeal is not something that the ICJ can rule on. How would you counter that?
No, that's not it. It's not a question of whether death sentence or no sentence. The question is that the Pakistani trial is only a sham trial. It has violated all the norms of the optional protocol. If a trial in any country violates all mandatory protocols, and in this case the optional protocol is something which both the countries have agreed to, considerations, for example, take a case where a person wants a lawyer and he's not allowed to appoint his own lawyer or is not allowed access to a lawyer, such a trial will be vitiated in any part of the world. So that is the basis on which it is being proceeded, not a question of whether it is X sentence or Y sentence. The question is the entire trial is a farce, and therefore no sentence could have been awarded, much less a death sentence, and that prima facie showing before the court has given the court the jurisdiction to take any provisional measures under Article 74 of the convention.
Stay with me. I want to get in a perspective from Pakistan. Fawad Hussain Chaudhary is a senior advocate of the Supreme Court of Pakistan, joining us on broadcast. Lots of theatrics from the Pakistani legal team. You wanted to play out the sham confessional video extracted under duress. The ICJ judges seeing right through it, saying nothing doing, we don't want to see this propaganda video.
Well, as far as the rape case is concerned, now the judgment is reserved, and I think the sanity will be that we all should wait for the court orders. And Pakistan's case is very simple, that all the evidence of Mr. Jadhav's involvement in terrorist activities in Pakistan was shared with India. They remained in lull for 1 year. Then just when the sentence was passed, they realized that something is wrong. And obviously, for the political purposes now, BJP government is trying to play it up. They are trying to bring a law, and obviously does.
Where has evidence been shared with India? Why? I have a few very simple questions for you, Mr. Chaudhary. Why has Kulbhushan Jadhav not been given access to a defense lawyer of his choice? Why is the Indian government being denied consular access not once, not twice, but 16 times? Why is Kulbhushan Jadhav's family being denied the right to get a visa to travel to Pakistan and to meet Kulbhushan Jadhav? Do you have any questions? Do you have any answers to these questions?
Okay. Number one, Pakistan shared their evidence of involvement of Mr. Jadhav with India, and the Indian foreign minister also admitted that in the Congress. Number two, the visa application was never filed, and if it is filed now, I don't know about that. Number three, Mr. Jadhav's consular access is subject to law, and the law 36 Clause 2 of Vienna Convention outs the espionage and terrorists for this facility, because this is a facility that you offer to all citizens. So law excludes that. And in the case of Mr. Jadhav, the consular access is excluded by law, and now India is trying to basically create a...
I agree with this. You know, one of India's finest lawyers, Pinky Anand, who's also our additional Solicitor General, she's with us on this broadcast. You're saying that the Vienna Convention doesn't provide for spies to be given access to consular access. How do you respond? Because I've got over here, you know, take someone like a Kasab. Here we don't even know whether Kulbhushan Jadhav is a spy. He's not. The Indian government says he's not a spy. His family says he's not a spy. India believes he's not a spy. Even if you're leveling that accusation, you have no real evidence against him. Ajmal Kasab was caught in the middle of the 26/11 carnage with a weapon in his hand. He was writing letters to the Pak government. He got a defense counsel. The Pakistani government was given the right to send its representatives to meet him. And look at that in comparison with what Pakistan is doing with Kulbhushan Jadhav. Pinky Anand, how do you respond to the Pakistani lawyer?
I'm afraid they're just trying to find some straws in the air, because ultimately today, as you rightly said, look at the position of law. You have to have consular access to ensure that a person has a fair trial and a fair opportunity. What he has done is something for which he will be tried and punished, if at all. But what he deserves in terms of rule of law and of justice is he has right to ensure that he is able to present his defense, which includes free access to consuls, free access to his family, free access to a defense lawyer of his choice, none of which have been met in this present case, and without doubt the Vienna Convention frowns upon that and would invalidate such a trial.
Very, very strong counter from Pinky Anand. She's saying let's leave aside for a moment. Court will prove, or a bipartisan court will prove, he should have access to his family, he should have access to defense lawyer, he should have access to the Indian consulars. Why is basic consular access not being given? You must respond to Pinky Anand. These are tough, straight, direct questions. You can't run away from them. Mr. Chaudhary?
Yes, well, frankly, the question is not that consular access has been provided or not, it is the law. And this is the precise question before ICJ. And you have made your argument. Now wait for the orders. And as far as
it's not a question. 60, you've arrested an Indian national, you're leveling charges against him, let alone whether those charges are true or not. You're saying this is not a question. Why is this not a question? Ajmal Kasab, a terrorist caught in the middle of the 26/11 terror attack, was given the right to consular access. The Pakistani government was told, he's your citizen, you can meet him. How is it that when Ajmal Kasab is given consular access, or offered to be given consular access, an Indian businessman is not given the same right?
This is a prerogative of Pakistani government. If they want to now the consular access or not, this is the law. You know that it's a bilateral agreement between the both the countries that people involved in espionage and terrorist activities will have access to the consular only if the government allows. The government is not allowing that.
Pinky Anand, the Pakistani council saying it's the prerogative of the Pakistani government to decide whether or not consular access should be given.
I think you can't have a more high-handed response. A, as I said, the rule of law in any part of the world demands that. B, the bilateral treaty that Mr. Chaudhary relies upon cannot even be looked at, because the UN Charter itself requires that for any treaty, a bilateral treaty, to be recognized or acted upon, it has to be placed before the UN, which this bilateral treaty has not. So therefore, this is just pulling wool out of the hat for nothing.
29th of March, Pakistan's permanent representative to the United Nations, a lady by the name of Maliha Lodi, wrote a letter to the UN saying that Pakistan had amended its internal laws in such a way that any matter which had a criminal verdict in a case pronounced by a Pakistani court could not be interfered with by the International Court of Justice, clearly preempting India's move to go to The Hague. Pinky Anand, does this letter to the United Nations by Maliha Lodi in any way impact what the judges at the ICJ may do?
I don't think these kind of tactics go to any logical conclusion whatsoever, which might be imagined by the other side. I think ICJ has already seized of the matter. They've already indicated that they're going to pass a judgment, which is going to hopefully come shortly, and they've also indicated the manner and the fashion in which the authorities in Pakistan should behave, considering that the provisional measure may be passed. I think the indications are quite clear, and let me tell you one thing. When a matter is seized of by any court in any part of the world, again, interim measures are always given to protect anything from happening which is irreversible, and definitely a death sentence would be irreversible, and once the court is seized of the matter, passing a stay on a death sentence would be one of the most logical situations and provisional measures to be passed.
One of the most logical provisional measures to be passed is to pass a stay. It seems very clear from very high-end legal opinion, at least in India, Mr. Chaudhary, that providing that there be a stay seems to be what the ICJ judges may do. We of course have to wait to see what the ultimate judgment is, but it seems from all the indications so far, that's really where we are heading. Mr. Chaudhary? Okay, it seems I'm having some audio problems with this. I want to go across to Gaurav Sawant. Gaurav Sawant is joining us from The Hague. Gaurav, we've looked at what the Pakistani Attorney General had to say. We've got Harish Salve, we've had him with us. We've got Pinky Anand live with us. You've been at The Hague. You were present during this hearing. Describe to our viewers the atmospherics around you and the mood in the Indian camp. A lot of these officials not coming on record, speaking after the hearing, but they were chatting with you off the camera. What did they tell you? How confident are they that the case against Kulbhushan Jadhav will fall flat and that Kulbhushan Jadhav's death sentence will ultimately be annulled?
They're extremely hopeful, Rahul. Hope was in the air after the hearing. You heard Harish, you spoke to Harish Salve yourself. I had spoken to him earlier this afternoon. He sounded very hopeful. Indian embassy officials, officials of the Ministry of External Affairs, they sound fairly confident because on merits, India has a strong case to stop the death penalty being carried out by Pakistan, at least put a halt on it till the time the matter is discussed further. Bilaterally and globally, that depends, on what the verdict of the international court is. But officials sounded fairly confident that India had a strong case. Pakistan relied more on rhetoric. What was a shot in the arm for India, Rahul, was the fact that Pakistan, their trump card, their so-called trump card, that 6-minute video confession that they wanted to broadcast in the International Court of Justice and hope that it would be carried globally, they got a big setback when the International Court refused to let that happen. They did not permit that. And so Pakistan had to make do by saying that the judges may want to watch it individually, but officially it is not a part of court record as per today's hearing goes. So that's a shot in the arm for India, a setback for Pakistan. Even on other issues where they said, where did he ask for consular access? 16 attempts made by India to get consular access. His mother is still seeking a visa to Pakistan. There is no response from Pakistan. His mother is still desperate to file a mercy petition in the Supreme Court of Pakistan and with the President of Pakistan without knowing merits of the case. So India feels we are on a very strong, India's on a very strong wicket. Legally, it depends on what the verdict of the court is within a week or two.
Okay, many thanks, Gaurav Sawant, for joining us. Pinky Anand, my one concern as I wrap up part one of the newsroom tonight is that you've got on the one side India putting a very forceful case. You've got Pakistan responding with all manner of lies. And what was India doing for 1 year? Why hasn't the family even asked for visa? These are all blatant lies. India has asked for consular access 13 times before the death sentence announced. The family has been itching and dying to go to Pakistan. They've not been allowed to do so. But how do you think the judges will look at this? Because they're hearing India's case, they're hearing Pakistan's counter. How will they actually be able to determine the veracity of the claims that India is making and see through the blatant lies that Pakistan is putting forth?
I think the court has to accept the prima facie views that the Indian government has put forth, and the actual factum of all these meetings that were denied, the consular meetings that were denied, is a matter of record. Any other documents can be put on record, but the principal situation is, it is a matter of fact that not even the Pakistani government has been able to show that he did, for example, the trial was done with consular access. Aside from trying to make any statement, they have to demonstrate that. Aside from making the statement that he was provided defense counsel, not that the Indian government had anything to do with the appointment of the defense counsel. So I think on the face of it, the situation is quite clear. This is a prima facie stage where a provisional measure is being sought for. Ultimately, when the matter is heard, the ICJ would go into whatever is required in order to prove the respective case of both the parties.
Pinky Anand there as a representative of the BJP, as a top advocate of the Indian government, sounding very confident. In a matter like this, as Harish Salve says, there are powers that are beyond us that will decide the fate. India putting up a very forceful case though. Let's hope that Kulbhushan Jadhav is not just given justice, but he also comes back to India. Rajinikanth had his fans in a spin when he decided to meet them. This is the big Rajini fan darshan.
Finally coming to an end. For doting Talaiva fans, it was a God-sent opportunity to meet their heartthrob in the flesh. Preparation for the fans' date with Rajinikanth had begun months in advance. Demigod status invited 750 lucky fans to meet him at Raghavendra Mandapam in Chennai's Kodambakkam. Fan frenzy peaked as the megastar finally made his way into the venue, dressed in a humble black kurta. After a brief interaction, questions turned to the all-important political plunge. The superstar, however, chose to play it cautious, keeping his cards close to his chest.
Salve. ஆதாயத்துக்காக நான் சப்போர்ட் பண்ணிருக்கேன் அப்படின்னு சொல்லிட்டு அவங்க கிட்ட வந்து சொல்றது அதுக்காக நான் வந்து ஒவ்வொரு எலெக்ஷன் வரும்போதும் என்னுடைய ஆதரவு யாருக்கும் இல்லை அப்படிங்கிற சூழ்நிலைக்கு நான் தள்ளப்படுறேன் அதுக்காக பண்றேன் அதே மாதிரி என்ன பொறுப்பு கொடுத்தா கூட நியாயமா உண்மையா சத்தியமா அப்படி ஒரு சூழ்நிலை ஏற்பட்டு நான் அரசியலுக்கு வர வேண்டிய சூழ்நிலை ஏற்பட்டால் அந்த மாதிரி ஆளுங்களை வந்து அந்த மாதிரி ஆளுங்களை கிட்ட கூட சேர்க்க மாட்டேன் கூட விட மாட்டேன் சோ ஆக இப்போ ஒதுங்கிடுங்க
Rajni used the opportunity to take digs at those who claim the star speaks out only before a mega release.
என்னுடைய அபுதாம் சார் மாதிரி and எல்லா பெரிய டைரக்டர்ஸ் ப்ரொடியூசர்ஸ் நல்ல கதையை கொடுத்து நல்ல திரைக்கதை அமைச்சு நல்ல சாங்ஸிங்க பண்ணி நல்ல கருத்துங்க சொல்லி நல்ல படங்க கொடுத்திருக்கிறதுனால தான் நான் இப்போ கூட இங்க நிக்கிறேன் சோ அந்த பழைய அந்த படங்கள்ல அந்த நினைவுகளோட நீங்க வந்து டெஃபினெட்லி ரஜினி வந்து ஏமாத்த மாட்டார் நல்ல படம் கொடுப்பார் அப்படிங்கிற நம்பிக்கையில தான் நீங்க வந்து படத்துக்கு நீங்க வருவீங்க
For the awestruck fans, a date with Talaiva was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity.
If at all he gets a chance to be a politician, which God will certainly decide, he's going to be a sincere and a dedicated politician, which is what we really love about his speech and something really different this time around.
Baba counting start after 1 year. He is coming CM.
For now, fans can't get enough of their beloved superstar, and they don't care much if he turns Netha or sticks to the silver screen. With Priyamvada in Chennai, Bureau Report, India Today.
Move any further, let me take you through some of the other big news headlines in the newsroom tonight. Protests broke out at the Dharna Chowk in Hyderabad on Monday as activists and cops clashed over the government's plans to shift out Dharna Chowk to another location. Dharna Chowk is a popular protest site in Hyderabad. The West Bengal government today decided to provide basic infrastructure to nationalize banks for opening new branches in various unbanked Gram Panchayats in the state. BJP MP Subramaniam Swamy said the centre may introduce a bill in Parliament for building a Ram temple at the disputed site in Ayodhya only after securing a majority in the Rajya Sabha next year. You're with us on the newsroom, and in the last part of this broadcast, a quick look at some of the other big headlines on the newsroom tonight. 2 CPM workers were arrested today for their alleged role in the May 12 killing of an RSS worker at the Payanur town. even as the centre said it's keeping an eye on the politically volatile town in North Kerala's district of Kannur. Mocking Rahul Gandhi, BJP leader Smriti Irani today said that unlike Rahul, she cannot turn her back on the people of Amethi from where she lost the elections in 2014. Jammu and Kashmir and Governor in Indora, also the chairman of the Amarnath Shrine Board, reviewed security arrangements for the Amarnath Yatra, which will be commencing on the 29th of June. There's a big investigation that the India Today Special Investigation Team has put together. It's raring and ready to go. We would have put it out tonight, but our plans changed slightly because of the live proceedings from the International Court of Justice. But I promise tomorrow we will have that big expose out for you. This is one investigation you simply cannot afford to miss. I look forward to seeing you on the newsroom tomorrow night. Till then, from all of us here in the India Today newsroom, goodbye, good night.